We're beginning today's discussion with a focused overview of the most important issues drawn from current affairs, designed to help you identify what truly matters from an exam perspective. This session brings together high-yield themes from the Hindu for January 31st, 2026, aligned with General Studies papers 1, 2, and 3. Today's analysis spans four core areas. In polity and governance, the focus is on menstrual rights under Article 21 and the constitutional scope of UGC norms under Article 142. From the environment and economy lens, we examine India's green steel transition and assess the on-ground realities of the Jal Jeevan mission. In science and technology, attention turns to a Supreme Court ruling on stem cell therapy, highlighting regulatory and ethical considerations. Finally, in international relations, we look at the Power Gap Index and the Senkaku dispute to understand shifting global power dynamics relevant for India. As we set the tone for today's discussion, this thought of the day highlights the importance of commitment and focus. The message reminds us that meaningful success does not come from a passive approach, but from dedicating oneself fully to a single, well-defined goal. For civil services aspirants, the comparison with an athlete is especially relevant. Just as an Olympian invests years of disciplined effort for one medal, preparation for the civil services demands sustained dedication, consistency, and clarity of purpose. Keeping this mindset helps you stay motivated through the long preparation journey and approach your studies with seriousness and intent. Moving into polity and justice, the Supreme Court has clearly recognized menstrual health as an integral part of the right to life and dignity under Article 21. The court linked access to menstrual hygiene directly with dignity, health, and education, making it a constitutional concern rather than just a welfare issue. From a rights perspective, ensuring menstrual hygiene helps remove stigma and humiliation, prevents infections and long-term health problems, and reduces school dropouts caused by lack of basic facilities. This judgment therefore connects public health and gender justice with the core values of Article 21. To give effect to this right, the court has laid down clear directions. States and union territories must ensure the free availability of sanitary pads in all schools, along with functional and gender-segregated toilets in government, aided, and residential schools. The larger objective behind these directions is to eliminate menstrual poverty and ensure that dignity, health, and education are accessible to all. Turning to governance, the Supreme Court has stayed the UGC's 2026 Anti-Discrimination Guidelines and reverted to the 2012 framework. The court noted that the newer guidelines lacked adequate safeguards and could lead to misuse. Under the reinstated 2012 guidelines, there is a clear distinction between ragging and caste-based discrimination, along with specific definitions for harassment and victimization. These norms also mandated equal opportunity cells with representation from general, SC, ST, and OBC categories, ensuring balanced institutional oversight. In contrast, the 2026 guidelines blurred the line between ragging and discrimination, lacked precise definitions, and did not provide safe harbor provisions to protect against false complaints. Another concern was the exclusion of general category representation from inquiry committees. The core issue from an exam perspective is the court's emphasis on procedural fairness and safeguards while addressing discrimination within educational institutions. Shifting to the constitutional focus, Article 142 highlights the Supreme Court's extraordinary power to ensure complete justice. This provision allows the court to pass any order or decree necessary to do justice in a pending matter, even if existing statutory laws do not provide a clear solution. In the UGC case, The court invoked Article 142 to avoid a legal vacuum that could leave students unprotected. Using this power, it directed that the 2012 guidelines would continue to apply until the final hearing scheduled in March. From an exam perspective, it is important to remember that Article 142 has been used in several landmark cases, including the Ram Janmabhoomi case, the IIT admission relief case, and the Chandigarh mayoral polls. These examples underline how the court uses this provision sparingly but decisively to uphold justice when ordinary legal mechanisms fall short. Moving to environment and economy, India's green steel transition highlights a clear twin challenge of development and climate responsibility. On one hand, India aims to expand steel production from about 125 million tons to nearly 400 million tons by 2047 to meet its developed nation goals. On the other, steel already accounts for around 12% of total emissions, creating a serious constraint under net zero commitments. The balancing factor here is sustainable technology. A key solution lies in the National Hydrogen Mission, which focuses on shifting steel production from coking coal to hydrogen-based reduction processes, significantly lowering carbon emissions. This transition is also being pushed by external economic pressure. The European Union's Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism will impose taxes on carbon-intensive or dirty steel exports. As a result, moving towards green steel is no longer just an environmental choice for India, but an economic necessity to remain competitive in global markets. Now turning to the Jal Jeevan mission. This scheme aims to provide 55 liters of water per person per day under the Har Ghar Jal initiative. On paper, the progress looks impressive, with nearly 98% infrastructure coverage in terms of pipelines laid. However, ground reality shows a gap between infrastructure and outcomes. Surveys indicate that actual functionality stands at around 83%, meaning regular water access is still uneven. Many households do not receive daily supply, and some get water only once a week. Quality is another concern, with issues such as abnormal pH levels and contamination by E. coli and coliform bacteria reported in samples. From a social perspective, the mission has a strong gender dimension. Reliable piped water reduces the time women spend fetching water, lowering their opportunity cost and contributing to greater participation in education, work, and household decision-making. In science and technology, the focus is on stem cell therapy and the ethical limits around its use. Stem cells are often described as raw material because they can develop into different types of cells such as blood cells or nerve cells. While some applications have received clinical approval and others are still in the research phase, not all proposed uses are scientifically validated. In this context, the Supreme Court has banned the use of stem cell therapy for treating autism spectrum disorder. The court's reasoning is threefold. First, there is no scientific consensus proving that stem cells can cure autism. Second, such therapies are often promoted through predatory marketing that offers false hope to parents at high costs. Finally, the therapy is still considered experimental for autism, making its commercial use unethical. For exam purposes, this ruling highlights the balance between scientific innovation and ethical regulation, emphasizing that patient safety and evidence-based medicine must guide the use of advanced medical technologies. Finally, in international relations, the focus is on the Senkaku or Diaoyu Islands dispute in the East China Sea. These islands are currently administered by Japan, but are claimed by China. making them a persistent flashpoint in regional geopolitics. The conflict is driven by three main factors. First, the surrounding waters are rich fishing grounds and are believed to hold potential oil and natural gas reserves. Second, the islands occupy a strategically important location for naval dominance and the control of key sea trade routes. Third, tensions have escalated due to frequent incursions by the Chinese Coast Guard and corresponding defense upgrades by Japan. For example events, this dispute illustrates how territorial claims, resource competition, and strategic considerations combine to shape power dynamics in East Asia, with broader implications for regional stability and global trade. This final segment looks at global geopolitics through the Asia Power Index and the idea of the power gap. According to this assessment, the United States remains the most influential power in Asia, with China close behind, while India is recognized as a major but still emerging power. The key concept here is the power gap, which measures the difference between a country's resources, such as military strength and economic wealth, and its actual influence, reflected in diplomacy and soft power. A smaller gap means resources are effectively converted into influence. For India, the insight is important for exams. India has a negative power gap. This means its resource potential is large, but its diplomatic and strategic influence has not fully caught up. The challenge ahead is to better translate economic growth and military capacity into sustained regional and global influence. This segment is designed to sharpen your thinking for essays and mains answers. Under character and power, the quote reminds us that authority reveals character. In exam terms, this can be linked to governance, the exercise of constitutional powers like Article 142, or leadership in geopolitics. The theme of simplicity highlights that ideas with far-reaching impact are often simple in design. You can apply this to concepts such as clean water under the Jeevan mission or broader ideas like freedom and equity, showing how simple interventions can transform public health and society. Finally, action stresses that inaction often carries a higher cost than making imperfect decisions. This is especially relevant to issues like climate action, including green steel transitions, where delay can be more damaging than taking timely corrective steps. These prompts help you build philosophical depth while staying rooted in current affairs. To conclude, here are today's high-yield takeaways from an exam-oriented perspective. In Polity, the Supreme Court has clearly affirmed that menstrual health is part of the right to life and dignity under Article 21, while educational justice was safeguarded through the use of Article 142. In the Economy and Environment section, the core challenge lies in balancing India's 2047 development ambitions with climate commitments. The green steel transition highlights this twin challenge, especially in light of the EU's Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. In international relations, the Senkaku Islands dispute underlines rising tensions in East Asia, while India's negative power gap signals untapped potential to convert resources into greater global influence. As an action point, revise Article 142 thoroughly and practice an essay on sustainable development versus economic growth, linking today's issues for better mains answers. That's it for today. Learn smarter with EduRev. Notes, tests, and practice in one app. Download EduRev now on Play Store and App Store and keep learning every day.